Hello, I'm Moira O'Neill, editor of MoneyWise, and today we're talking about alternative property investing. I'm here with Christian Fays, who is co-founder and CEO of LendInvest. Christian, buying a house or a flat is too much of an expense and hassle for some people. Are there any easier ways of investing in property?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point. There are a lot of costs and hassle involved with buying a property directly, the conveyancing process, stamp duty, all these sorts of things. So there are alternatives, which is the good news for people. And I think, platforms like LendInvest, where you can go online and get exposure to the asset class, are relatively new, but they are, viable alternatives that people should be considering.
One of the traditional ways that people invest in property is through a property investment fund that holds commercial property. What are the risks associated with property funds?
Well, I think it's a really interesting topic. That I think, generally speaking, property funds are more focused on commercial property. So there's sort of large tower, commercial towers and things like that. So it's not necessarily residential. The other side of it is that it's generally quite illiquid, an investment in a property fund. So you can't sell, a 40-story building that quickly, and so the underlying investment in a property fund is pretty illiquid. So I think there are a couple of things that people should consider and look at quite closely with funds.
So how does commercial property differ from residential property? Are they very different? Do they behave differently in the markets?
Yeah, they are very different. I think it's important for investors to understand that. So with a commercial property, the tenant is a business. And so really your investment or your ability for the tenant to pay their rent really depends on the underlying business's performance. And so, I think it's a much more complicated investment, investing in commercial property. Residential, it's much simpler, but they're very different asset classes, really.
Christian, can you explain the difference between property crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending? It all sounds very technical and difficult to understand, but...
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit. I think they're both interesting options for people looking to invest in property, and they should consider both. Essentially, crowdfunding is investing with the crowd to buy the property, so it's actually an equity investment. With peer-to-peer, you're lending to a borrower, and so you have a security against the property. So arguably, it's a more liquid, more secure investment in the peer-to-peer side, but both are interesting options for investors.
Now, you can invest with small amounts, can't you? How little do you need to?
Yeah, so on LendInvest you can invest from as low as £100. So you can sort of go on and select your loans that you want to invest in from £100. So it's a really accessible investment.
Now, it's not risk-free though, is it? Can you explain a bit
It's not. It's capital at risk, of course, and I think that is a really important thing for people to understand as well. It's not putting money in a bank account. It's very different to that. So, if the borrower that we lend to can't pay the loan back, then, there is a risk associated with your investment. But it's a secured investment as well, and we're very conservative in terms of our approach. So, in a worst case scenario, there is an asset there that we can sell and recover our investors' monies.
Right, well, Christian, thank you very much for talking to MoneyWise today.
Thanks for having me.